Welcome back to Homesteading with the Zimmermans, where each week we give you another episode of what's happening here on our Northeast Iowa 21-acre homestead. My husband Alvin and I have been married for 25 years, and we have 7 children. 5 of those children still live at home. Our oldest 2 are married and no longer live at home, so this means we also have 2 son-in-laws and 1 grandson so far. So on our 21-acre homestead, we seek to preserve the self-sufficient lifestyle of our Old Order Mennonite heritage for the next generation. We involve the children in every aspect of the homestead, from raising and harvesting our own meat, gardening and preserving to fill the family's larder, or preserving the dairy from the family milk cows, plus all the many other skills that develop the character and integrity and relationships of a family that seeks to bring glory and honor to their Heavenly Father. Good morning, YouTube family. It is shortly after 6 a.m. and it is somewhere in the 60s, probably about 65 degrees. I've got my coffee and we are going to do a garden tour. We're going to see how much we can get done before the mosquitoes drive me out of the garden. So mosquitoes have been a big issue. It seems, every year there's something, and it's just the nature of gardening in a fallen world. When I get my garden in heaven, it will be the perfect garden. But on dry years, we struggle and we worry about, will we get a harvest, all of that. And we have to, possibly water. And then on wet years, like this year, we struggle with mosquitoes, and up in the barn, by the animals, there's a lot more flies on wet years, because flies, like mosquitoes, need moisture to hatch out their eggs. So the last couple days, the mosquitoes have not been too bad, and I've got mosquito repellent on. So we'll see how far we can get. I hope that you've been admiring my zinnias and hollyhocks. The flowers in my garden have been bringing me so much joy, because there was so many years that my garden was simply production, because all my time and energy had to go into raising food for the family. And because I was so busy with babies and toddlers, I didn't have a lot of time for adding flowers and taking care of flowers, because all my garden energy had to go towards raising food. So I call this stage of the garden the jungle stage, because it really shows me how big everything gets, and how I planned it way too close together in the spring, because I forget how big everything gets. So let's dive right in and get started. So here on this arch here, I simply have morning glories growing, and there's a hollyhock that's coming in this way, and I have my tromboncino squash on this side of the trellis. So the squash and cucumbers, I usually have to help a little bit on the trellis, so I just make sure, let's put you down here, I just kind of help them attach themselves to the trellis when I come out here. And over here I've got another tromboncino squash going up on this side. So tromboncino squash are an heirloom variety, and they were bred, or the tromboncino squash are from the days before Miracle-Gro and all of that happy stuff. And they are extremely disease resistant. In the last 4 years that I've been planting these squash, I have not lost one single plant to the cucumber beetle or squash bugs or anything like that. So there is something to say for old-fashioned squash. If you struggle with raising squash, try the tromboncino. The tromboncino it's like a summer squash when it's young and tender, and then if you let it mature, it's like a winter squash and it will store for winter. Okay, here on the west portion of the garden, I have some cilantro that is about going to seed. I may gather those seeds and have some coriander. Otherwise, we'll just let it reseed itself. And then here I've got winter squash growing beside my corn, and I've got some pole beans coming here beside the corn. They're supposed to climb up the corn, but the corn has grown so much faster that I'm not sure the pole beans are going to get up there to get enough light to really do much. So I'm fairly new to planting my pole beans on the corn. This is probably the second year I'm doing it, and I always plant my corn traditionally the way I do, and then later on I'm like, oh yeah, I wanted to plant pole beans on there, and I think to truly be successful I need to plant my corn a little further apart, because the pole beans can't grow fast enough to get up there to get light, because the corn grows so fast. But we'll see what happens. We've got a lot of summer left. So then here along the edge I have my pepper plants, and we've already harvested some peppers, some bell peppers for using. There's some more coming, but I love to pick peppers, but I have to discipline myself to let them grow big. And then of course I've got some jalapenos for salsa making all the way down there. And these that are down here at this end, these are called trichia peppers, like I tricked you, because they're supposed to have the taste of jalapenos but without the heat. So we will see what we think about those. I thought the boys might like those, and I'm definitely going to add them to my salsa, because we really like the taste of jalapenos in the salsa, but we're not always a fan of, oh, the mosquitoes are down here in the shade. We're not always a fan of the heat that jalapenos add to the salsa. I'm just down here picking purslane, and I often get comments, folks saying, oh, you can eat that. Yes, I know, we can eat it. We can walk anywhere on the property and find plenty of purslane to eat. We throw most of it out. It grows like weeds here. It's very, very plentiful. It's probably my biggest summertime weed that I battle is purslane. All right, so here is my sweet corn. You can tell it has just gone to tassel, this early sweet corn that I planted. And once you see the tassels, that means that we're gonna have sweet corn in about a month. So 3 weeks, maybe a month. And then here next to the sweet corn, I have planted my winter squash, and you can see I've freshened up the grass clippings around my winter squash. Probably because when I put this grass clipping down, they were still tiny and I didn't pile the grass clippings up real close. But then yesterday when I mowed, I piled the grass clippings real close. And then down here at the end, I've got a couple watermelon plants, and I see the first baby watermelon there. I always like to find a baby watermelon to watch because they grow so fast, and it's so fun to watch them develop. And over here, you can see I've got some weeds to get there before they go to seed. My biggest goal right now is just to not let any weeds go to seed. Down there, there's one that looks suspicious. But you can see as you look in here through the corn, the corn creates a shade canopy that keeps a lot of weeds from growing. But here at the edge, this one gets enough light where the weeds are going to thrive on the outside row. So I need to pull those weeds. And then I've got my tomatoes going here. My tomatoes, some of these I had to replant. So like right here, these are coming a little slower. And these are some from the first planting that are doing well. They're almost to the top of the fence already. And of course I've got marigolds coming along with them. I see I've got one marigold bloom down here. And then of course I've got some volunteer sunflowers down there at the very end. So here's my tomato plants. I've got one sickly one here on the end. Doesn't seem to be spreading, so I'm not sure what's going on. I was kind of hoping that he would just snap out of it, but probably some kind of virus. It's got some tomatoes hanging on the bottom there. And then of course some more sunflowers. I've got a couple blooms up here. Okay, so if you remember right, this is where my peas were. So we pulled all the peas out, and on the 4th of July, I planted my main crop of potatoes in here. So hopefully that will produce something. Time will tell. But if we don't try, we won't know. But from what I've been reading, a lot of people plant a second crop of corn, a second crop of potatoes. When their early potatoes come out, they will plant another crop. As long as you get them in before mid-July, you're usually okay. That's what I've been reading on the Facebook garden sites for this area. And the other reason I started thinking about this, planting my potatoes so late, is when we went to Prince Edward Island a couple years ago, and there's big potato farms up there, and we went early August, and their potatoes were still in the growing stage. And I thought, well, maybe they're in such a different growing zone. I looked it up, and they were in a growing zone that was very similar to ours. And so I did some research, and I learned that a lot of the potato farms do 2 crops of potatoes. And that's what got me started thinking that, hey, I bet I could do potatoes as a succession crop. So we will see. I'm sure I'll take you along for the journey. These potatoes right here, and weeds. There's a lot of weeds in these potatoes. Those are the potatoes that I planted early. Those are like for fresh eating, just one row of red potatoes. So I saw a couple blossoms on these potatoes. Potatoes don't often blossom a lot, but here's one. After you see the blossoms, then you know that, sorry, I have to go after this weed. And there's a potato beetle. I have to get the boys down here and tell them they can earn some money by picking potato bugs. Anyway, after you see the blossoms, then you know that there is potatoes under them. Here I planted some lima beans, and I didn't think they were pole limas, but apparently they are. So I gave them a little cattle panel so they can climb up. And I'm kind of suspicious that there was just a couple pole limas mixed in with bush lima beans, because they don't all seem to need to grow. So we'll see. Here I planted some sorghum, and this is mostly, I'm just going to collect seed from this, and this will be a crop that we feed to the animals in the future, but I'm just growing this right here for seed. And then these are my crowder peas. This is my first time planting crowder peas. I'm not exactly sure what I'm doing with those, but time will tell. And this is another, something I'm learning. I gotta get this weed. Oh, I broke it. It's not good. Here's another weed. And then here I have a volunteer tomato plant. This one is gives tiny little yellow tomatoes. And I just put a cage around that one. And I can't wait for those tiny little yellow tomatoes. Here you can tell I have fresh grass clippings around my sweet potatoes. And sweet potatoes kind of take a long time to get going, but once they get going, you want to make sure you have your grass clippings or your mulch there, because they're going to go everywhere and they go fast. Here's my green beans. This is a project that we need This is a project that we're going to do today. We're going to pick and can green beans. And that row looks long. So I know I said I don't need green beans because I canned so many last year. But here we go. I just planted one row because I'm like, I don't need that many green beans. But we're going to get a lot of green beans. So for the first time in my life, I thought to myself, you know what? If I had a freeze dryer, I would probably freeze dry this year's green beans because they would, save forever that way. Anyway, so you all are working on me with your comments about you should have a freeze dryer because it's the first time I'm like, you know what? If I had a freeze dryer, I would freeze dry these green beans and save them for 10 years down the road. But it's okay. There comes my donkey. Dave heard me down here. Anyway, so lots of onions, lots of weeds with the onions, getting some nice big bulbs with my onions. So I'm very happy about that. And then some of my brassica has gone. It's going to go get flowers, cauliflower that I didn't get harvested. The other project for this week is to take these big cabbages. I have 1, 2, and I mean, look how big this one is. Turn them into sauerkraut. Here's another weed. And here I've got some lettuce seed that I'm waiting to collect, but it's not time yet. Here is my arugula seeds that I'm going to collect. And oh, the other thing I wanted to show you is my radishes have gone to flower, and we're eating radish pods. So the seed pods from radishes are actually yummy, and the kids come down here and snack on them. But I am going to be removing a lot of these because you can see how they're crowding my carrots here. So I'm going to be pulling a lot of these out to make so that my carrots have more room to, grow and they get more sunshine. Okay, the other thing that we have on the list for today is to pick these cherries and make some cherry pie filling. You see a lot of these are ready to be picked. And then we've got this tiny little cherry tree up here, and that one's got cherries on it too. Well guys, thank you for coming with me on today's garden tour. And can you even believe how much everything has grown in a couple weeks? It's just outstanding. Anyway, thank you so much for commenting, liking, and subscribing to our channel. And we will be back with another video on Saturday.